Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take stacks of sources, cut through the noise, and basically leave you with those golden nuggets you need to be, well, truly well-informed. Today, think about a market maybe bigger, more dynamic than you'd guess. It's built entirely on the hard work of tiny insects. Yeah, we're talking honey, the global honey market. So our mission here is to explore this fascinating world of honey commerce. We've got this comprehensive report from Cognitive Market Research, and we're going to pull out the really key bits of info, market value now, where it's heading in the next decade, which regions are really buzzing. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding the maybe surprising trends in this, well, sweet global industry. Okay, let's unpack this because the sheer scale, the size of the global honey market it's quite something. The report says it was valued at roughly $8.6 billion. That was back in 2021. And the buzz, well, it's only getting louder. Projections show it soaring past $10.5 billion by 2025. And then, get this, an impressive $15.7 billion by 2033. What really stands out, though, is that steady growth.
A compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of about 5.15% year after year.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, it's not just the big numbers, right? It's that consistent, significant upward trend. It really shows a robust and expanding demand for honey all over the world. This doesn't feel like just a fleeting trend. It suggests maybe a fundamental shift in how people see honey. Moving beyond just being a sweetener, maybe more of a health thing or a versatile ingredient. That steady growth rate, it really underlines a market with deep roots, evolving, and, well, a pretty clear future path.
Okay, so if the global market's growing so consistently, where's the biggest regional buzz? Where should we look first? Maybe North America.
Yeah, let's start there.
All right, so North America, it generated about, $2.57 billion in 2021? And the projection, it's set to grow to around $4.5 billion by 2033. That's an annual growth rate, a CAGR, of about 4.66%. Pretty solid.
Solid, yeah. And within that?
Within North America, the U.S. is, well, as you might expect, the biggest piece of the pie, valued over $2 billion in 2021. Set to reach roughly $3.5 billion by 2033. That's a CAGR of about 4.44%. But, okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Canada. Canada is actually outpacing the U.S. in growth rate there.
That's a really sharp observation. Yes.
Yeah.
Canada, it's a smaller market overall, right? Around $313 million in 2021, but it's projected to hit nearly $600 million by 2033. And that CAGR is remarkable, 5.77%.
Wow.
That's the highest growth rate across North America. This notable acceleration in Canada, it could be a few things. Maybe a growing health food scene, or more people buying specialty honeys, local stuff, or maybe focusing on artisanal products. It definitely highlights a very specific dynamic unfolding up there.
Exactly. And Mexico's not far behind Canada in growth, actually. Projected to hit over $438 million by 2033. It started around $238 million in 2021. That's a solid 5.06% CAGR too.
And if we kind of connect this to the bigger global picture, Europe actually represents the largest regional market overall.
Bigger than North America in total value.
Oh, yeah. In 2021, Europe's honey market was valued at a massive $3.08 billion, and it's expected to reach nearly $5.5 billion by 2033. It's maintaining a strong CAGR, too, about 4.86%.
Okay, so almost 5% growth on that huge base.
Right. And when you look inside Europe at the individual countries, it's quite a diverse landscape. You've got established markets like Germany and the UK. They're growing steadily, around 4% annually. Germany, for instance, started at about $474 million in 2021. It's heading towards nearly $800 million by 2033.
And the UK, similar steady growth.
A bit lower, actually, around 3.98% CAGR from $383 million towards $632 million. Still significant growth, though.
So what other European countries are really driving that overall growth, or maybe showing something different?
Well, France and Italy, they're showing particularly strong momentum. Both have CAGRs over 5.2%.
Right. France
started around $404 million in 2021, expected to reach over $764 million by 2033. That's a 5.64% CAGR. And Italy, starting smaller, about $226 million, is also on a really robust path towards $416 million, 5.26% CAGR there. These figures, they suggest a strong and increasing consumer liking for honey in those countries.
Makes sense. What about places like Spain or Russia?
Russia's fairly steady, around 4.2% CAGR, heading towards $605 million. Spain's a bit lower, like the UK, around 3.85%. And then you have some smaller markets like, say, Denmark, which actually has the lowest European CAGR listed here, just over 2%.
Interesting variation.
But what's really interesting in Europe, perhaps, is the rest of Europe segment. This category, which lumps together smaller markets, shows the region's highest growth, an impressive 6.3% CAGR.
Wow, so faster than France or Italy even.
Exactly. It nearly doubles from about $733 million in 2021 to over $1.47 billion by 2033. It really indicates widespread growth, kind of diffuse, beyond just the major economies.
That's a great insight. It shows growth isn't just in the big players. Okay, let's shift gears. Asia Pacific. This region seems like a real hotspot for rapid expansion in honey, valued at about $1.78 billion in 2021, expected to grow to nearly $3.6 billion by 2033. And it boasts the highest overall regional CAGR we've seen so far, almost 6.3%.
Yeah, the Asia-Pacific region it's a fascinating case study in how markets evolve. I mean, you have China and Japan as significant contributors, of course. China started around $522 million in 2021, projected to break $1 billion by 2033. That's nearly 5.85% CAGR. Japan is almost identical in growth rate.
Big markets, steady growth.
Right. But it's the emerging markets within APAC that are really accelerating things.
And the real star of the show here, in terms of individual country growth,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be India. An impressive 7.07% CAGR. I mean, that's huge.
It really is.
That's a market projected to more than double in value. Jumps from about $253 million in 2021 to over $547 million by 2033. That kind of CAGR, it means the market's doubling roughly every, 10 years? Incredible.
Absolutely. That level of growth in India points to massive potential. Maybe a rising middle class, increased health awareness, honey becoming more common in diets, or maybe traditional medicine uses.
Lots of factors, probably.
For sure. And another area of really incredible growth is Singapore, almost 6.9% CAGR. Shows a strong appetite for honey, maybe in a smaller but, affluent market.
And Southeast Asia as a whole.
Also very strong, about 6.65% CAGR, growing from $167 million to $350 million.
Okay, but didn't you mention one segment was even higher?
I did. Then we have the rest of APAC's market segment. This takes the crown. It's the highest growth of all the segments we're looking at today. An incredible 8.1% CAGR.
8.1%. Wow.
Yeah, growing from about $200 million in 2021 to almost $468 million by 2033. It truly highlights this widespread, rapid adoption across many, many smaller economies within the Asia-Pacific region.
Okay, that rapid growth, especially in rest of APAC and India, it raises a question for me. What about South America? We see strong growth there too, right? What's fueling that?
Correct.
The overall market there was valued around $601 million in 2021, projected to reach over $1.24 billion by 2033, growing at a really robust 6.18% CAGR overall.
That's a critical point. South America is certainly an emerging powerhouse in the honey market, no doubt. Brazil contributes significantly, of course. It's got an almost 5.82% CAGR, growing from about $191 million in 2021 to nearly $384 million by 2033. So big contribution, strong growth. But the real standout, like you hinted at, is Argentina.
Right, Argentina, marking the highest South American CAGR at a remarkable 6.73%.
Exactly.
Its market's growing from about $78 million in 2021 to over $169 million by 2033. That's a fantastic rate of growth for a market that size.
Indeed. And this kind of robust growth in South America, especially Argentina, it suggests maybe increasing domestic demand, perhaps shifting diets, a greater appreciation for honey's natural qualities, maybe even growing export opportunities. Hard to say exactly without more data, but the trend is clear.
And other countries there.
Colombia, Peru, Chile, they're also showing very healthy growth rates, all over 5.3%. It demonstrates a broad regional upswing.
And the rest is South and Pond.
That segment reinforces the trend, too, achieving a 6.53% CAGR, from around $238 million in 2021 to over $506 million by 2033. It really paints a picture of a continent, embracing honey.
Okay, fascinating. Finally, let's just briefly touch on the smaller markets, but still growing markets in the Middle East and Africa. So the Middle East, honey market generated about $344 million in 2021, rising to over $516 million by 2033. The CAGR is 3.69%. That's actually the lowest overall regional CAGR we've seen, but still solid growth. Saudi Arabia leads there.
Yes, Saudi Arabia is a key player in the Middle East market, going from about $134 million in 2021 towards nearly $197 million by 2033, a 3.4% CAGR. But interestingly, the UAE shows the highest Middle East TGR at 4.72%,
Okay.
growing from about $37 million to over $60 million. It kind of hints at the diverse economic factors at play, maybe a growing tourism sector there, or different changing consumer preferences within the region compared to, say, Saudi Arabia. Egypt also shows decent growth over 4.2%.
Interesting. And Africa, smallest overall market.
Right, smallest regional market currently, but still demonstrating consistent expansion.
Valued at about $215 million in 2021, projected over $378 million by 2033. That's a 4.06% CAGR.
Yeah, and Nigeria and South Africa are leading the charge there in terms of market size. South Africa, for instance, moved from about $71 million in 2021, projected to hit over $121 million by 2033, about 3.7% growth. But again, the rest segment is interesting. Rest of Africa shows the highest African CAGR at 4.42%, increasing from about $101 million to over $183 million by 2033. It suggests that even in regions where the market is, let's say, less mature, there's still a clear and growing demand for honey.
Well, I think the key takeaways are pretty clear. The global honey market is incredibly robust. It's set for substantial, consistent growth over the next decade. That much seems certain from this report. And while Europe remains the largest market today in just sheer dollar value, it's really Asia, Pacific, and South America leading the pack in terms of percentage growth rate. We've seen some really exceptional annual growth rates, those TAGRs in specific countries and those rest of regions segments.
Yeah, just to reiterate some of those standouts, India projected over 7% annually. The rest of APAC's soaring at over 8%. Argentina consistently over 6.7%. Canada surprisingly strong at nearly 5.8%. And even rest of Europe showing great momentum at 6.3%.
It's quite a list.
It is. And these numbers, they tell a really compelling story. It's about evolving consumer preferences, maybe increased awareness of health benefits, and just the diverse culinary uses of honey spreading across different cultures. It's clearly not just a simple sweetener anymore. It's becoming this versatile product with, well, growing global appeal.
So a final thought then. Given this consistent global growth, you have to wonder, what innovative production methods or maybe completely new uses for honey might emerge to meet all this future demand? And perhaps even more critically, how might things like climate change or the health of bee populations globally, how might those huge factors impact these really impressive projections we've been talking about?
Big questions.
Definitely something to think about, isn't it? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a really close look at something you might think is simple, but it's actually incredibly dynamic. The global honey market. We're going way beyond the breakfast table here. Our mission is to unpack the key drivers, the big challenges, and also the really cool innovations shaping this golden industry.
Exactly. And just so you know, everything we're discussing today, all the insights, they're powered by the latest official data from cognitive market research. So this is a properly data-backed analysis we're bringing you. We're cutting through the noise.
Okay, let's get into it. Why is honey buzzing so much right now? The biggest driver, it seems, isn't just a simple preference. It feels bigger, almost like a pushback against artificial stuff. I saw a figure, something like over 40% of consumers are actively trying to cut down on refined sugar and artificial sweeteners. What does that signal?
Oh, it signals a huge shift, a really seismic reevaluation of, well, health and purity, you could say. And honey's in a prime spot because it's seen as cleaner, more authentic. It's not just in home kitchens anymore. It's a major player in the clean label food and beverage sector now. That's a big commercial step up.
Clean label, right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But it's more than just not being sugar, isn't it? Is it really being seen as something beneficial in itself?
You hit the nail on the head there. Absolutely. Beyond just replacing sugar, a huge driver is the growing awareness of honey's actual health properties. I mean, it's packed with antioxidants, it has antibacterial compounds, anti-inflammatory agents, so we're seeing it positioned much more as a functional food. It's turning up in natural cough remedies, in nutraceuticals. It's moving way beyond just food, really, into wellness, even preventive health, like a little natural medicine cabinet.
Yeah, I definitely noticed some honeys looking, well, almost like luxury goods lately. What's behind that? This premiumization trend. It seems focused on very specific types, commanding pretty high prices.
Ah, yes. That's where things get really interesting. We're seeing the surge in demand for monofloral honeys. Think manuka, acacia, CAGR honey. These aren't just sweet. They have really distinct flavors and often specific therapeutic claims or properties. So what's happening economically is consumers aren't just buying sweetness anymore. They're looking for authenticity, for targeted wellness benefits, for something unique. And that desire is fundamentally shifting honey away from being just a basic commodity. It's pushing it into the gourmet, even luxury food space. It's about the story, the origin, as much as the taste.
Okay, so lots of growth, lots of positive drivers. But it can't all be smooth sailing.
Yeah.
What are the stings, the big hurdles for honey? It does have competition, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely not smooth sailing. There are significant challenges. Probably the most urgent global restraint is the threat to bee populations. You hear about colony collapse disorder, CCD, but it's also pesticide use, climate change, loss of habitat. These things directly hit production volumes, drive up costs, and, well, they put the entire sustainability of honey under serious pressure. Makes you think twice about that jar, doesn't it?
It really does. And beyond the bees themselves, there's this other major issue. Food fraud. Fake
Yeah.
honey. That sounds kind of crazy.
It sounds crazy, but it's a critical threat. We call it economic adulteration. It's when honey gets diluted with cheap sugar syrups, or maybe it's mislabeled about where it came from. This obviously cheats the consumer. But the deeper damage. It floods the market, undercuts honest beekeepers, and erodes trust in all honey. Suddenly, trust becomes just as valuable, maybe even harder to find, than the genuine product itself.
And then just the basic market competition. Honey isn't the only sweetener on the shelf. It's got rivals.
Exactly. Fierce competition. You've got your standard low-cost refined sugar still very much present. But then there's this whole range of trendy alternatives: agave, maple syrup, stevia, erythritol, you name it. And for honey, particularly when you talk about using it on a large industrial scale in food manufacturing, its relatively higher cost is still a significant barrier. It's often viewed as premium, which can limit how widely it's used.
Sounds like quite a few obstacles. But, despite all that, it seems like innovation and what consumers want are actually creating some powerful new directions. What's emerging there?
Yes, absolutely. Even with the challenges, there's a lot of positive momentum. One of the biggest trends right now is the demand for raw and organic honey. It's soaring. And this isn't just marketing fluff. Raw means unpasteurized, unfiltered, so it keeps all those natural enzymes and pollen. These types are growing way faster than conventional honey. It's driven by health-conscious consumers looking for that full nutritional benefit, a truly live food.
That ties back nicely to the health focus we talked about.
Yeah.
So if people want the real deal, how do they know they're getting it? Traceability and origin must be key then.
Precisely. Building that trust we mentioned is crucial. So brands are turning to tech. We're seeing QR codes becoming common, even blockchain being used, allowing you to trace your jar of honey right back to a specific region, sometimes even a specific beekeeper. This kind of farm-to-table transparency, it builds huge confidence. Plus, it adds to the story, especially for premium honeys going to export markets, lets you connect with the source.
Okay, and lastly, honey isn't just for eating anymore, is it? You mentioned wellness, but are we seeing actual products based on this? Functional innovations.
It's quite remarkable, the versatility. Honey's now the foundation for a whole range of wellness products, way beyond the pantry. Think functional drinks using honey, herbal teas, natural throat lozenges, even advanced wound care. And what's really striking is medical-grade honey gaining serious traction in actual healthcare settings. Its antimicrobial and healing properties are being properly recognized and utilized. It's literally moving from the kitchen to the clinic. So if we were to sum up our deep dive today, you could say the global honey market is being powerfully reshaped. It's this mix of rising health awareness from consumers, this push towards premium special varieties, and then these really innovative functional uses. And again, all these trends, these insights, they're clearly reflected in the data from cognitive market research. It gives us a solid picture.
Right. What really stands out from our conversation is that honey is proving it's far more than just sweet. It's smart, it's arguably sustainable if managed right, and it's surprisingly strategic. So maybe next time you pick up a jar, think about that incredible journey from the bee to the beekeeper through all these market forces to your home, and consider its expanding role, from our food to potentially even our medicine. It really highlights this amazing connection between nature, industry, and our own well-being, doesn't it?